Good morning, students. We are going to read the poem Elementary Slum, Elementary School Classroom in a Slum. As we can see on the screen, a scene of the slum area has been shown that people living in slum live in unhygienic conditions. Now, before we start the poem itself, let's know about the poet. It's a poem by Stephen Spender. As we know, he is an English poet. He is an essayist who took keen interest in the socialist school of thought, which explains his stance regarding the paradox of teaching elementary school children in a slum. It is a mere wish fulfillment to think that you can teach children on an empty stomach. Actually, Stephen Spender belonged to the movement school of poetry. They were in movement against the system, and in his poem, he strongly believed that poem should be a message conveyor to the system. The theme of the poem is that it conveys the paradox of teaching elementary school children in a slum. One cannot hope to provide education to children who are poor and hungry. A feeling of hopelessness coupled by the actual lack of bright future suggests that the very purpose of educating the children has been defeated. It is the poet's belief that only after the policymakers have addressed the problems of poverty and its attendant problems like malnourishment and inherited diseases that one can hope to provide an education to these children makes sense. So, the scene in the screen, on the screen, shows an elementary slum classroom. We can see it is overcrowded without any facilities. Now, the poem itself. Far, far from gusty waves, these children faces like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor, the tall girl with her weighed down head, paper seeming boy with rat's eyes, the stunted, unlucky ear of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk at the back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So this stanza talks about the children being taught in the elementary slum classroom. The poet says that these students are far, far from gusty waves. These gusty waves symbolize the forces of nature, but these children live very, very far from the nature's tent, and the children faces are compared with rootless weeds. As we know that weeds are unwanted plants and they are uprooted by farmers. So these weeds do not have even a ground to say that it is their own. So they lack even firm grounding. Now he compares the faces of these children to the rootless weeds, and he also says that their hair are torn, their hair are uncombed, and they are around their pallor. That means the children who are hungry on their stomach, they do not pay any attention to the the appearance. Their hair are unkempt and uncombed. Then the second girl sitting in the classroom is a tall girl, but her head is weighed down. Weighed down, it says that she feels ashamed. One more thing has been conveyed by the poet, that the girl is taller than other students in the class. The she feels ashamed, might be the reasons are that she could not get education at proper time and she has grown older than her classmates, and now she feels ashamed attending class with smaller children. And the second reason for her head being weighed down might be the burden of poverty, or she is exploited by the society, and the exploitation has made her head to weigh down. The third boy sitting in the classroom is the paper seeming boy with rat's eye. The boy has been compared with paper because he is as thin as a paper and he is as colorless as a paper, and his eyes are compared with the eyes of the rat, as we know that rat is always in search of food. These boys are also hungry, and these boys' eyes keep moving like rats' eyes, as if they are in search of something. They are in search of food, or they are being haunted by the society that they want security from. Now, the poet says that this third boy sitting in the classroom is stunted. Stunted means whose growth has been nipped, whose growth has been cut. And these boys sitting in the classroom are unfortunate because they are the heir. Heir means inheritors of twisted bones and disease. The disease that his father used to have has been inherited by them. See, we regard ourselves lucky because we inherit fortune and riches and property from our parent, but these students sitting in the classroom are unlucky and unfortunate that they have inherited their father's disease, and they keep reciting their lesson from the desk. They have twisted bones because they are malnourished. Now, the poet says that all the students sitting in the classroom are not entirely hopeless. He shows the picture of hope by referring to the fourth boy sitting in the classroom. He sits at the back of the dim class, and this boy is not noted by anyone. He sits at the corner of the class at the back, and this boy is sweet faced, young, and when one looks at his eyes, he is not present in, he might be present physically in the classroom, but his eyes have shows that he is in a dream of a tree room other than this, and he also dreams of playing like squirrel. And it shows that this boy is present physically in the classroom, but he still has not given up hope, and he keeps living in the world of his own imagination like a squirrel lives in a tree room. And this boy, at least in imagination, is able to transport himself into the lap of nature. Now, the figures of speech used in the stanza are far, far from repetition. Far, far repetition, far, far from alliteration, and like rootless weeds is a simile. Then the paper seeming boy is a metaphor. Rat's eye again is a metaphor. Then the dim class and squirrel's tree room game is an image. Now let's move on to the next stanza, that is, so first stanza told about the students of the class. Second stanza tells about the physical condition of the classroom. Poet says, on sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's had, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome, riding old cities, bell, flowery, troilus valley, open-handed map, awarding the world its world. And yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, where all their future is painted with a fog, a narrow street sealed with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, cape, and stars of words. So, now the explanation of the stanza. On sour cream walls, the poet compares the walls color with the color of a sour cream. He says that the color of the walls of the classroom is as faded, as creamish or greeny creamish as a foul cream, milk cream has, and it smells like sour cream, spoiled milk cream. And on the walls of this classroom there are some paintings that are hung, but these paintings do not match with what is taught in the classroom. These paintings are donated, and these paintings are not procured, and the walls have not been painted since long. The first painting in the classroom is that of a Shakespeare's portrait, and as we can see that Shakespeare's portrait is balding. It has a balding patch, and that balding patch of Shakespeare's head has been compared with the morning time. Dawn means when the night transits into day. But at the time of dawn itself, the sky is without cloud. The Shakespeare's painting has been compared with a sky which is cloudless at the time of dawn because it has a balding patch. And we can also say that the poet compares the life of the children and with the day, and the morning time can be regarded as the childhood. So in the morning time itself, In the dawn itself, it is cloudless. Cloudless means without any hope. It is hopeless. The second portrait, as we can see, is that of a civilized dome riding old cities. So, skyscraper buildings are shown in the second portrait, but the children who live in slum, they have never seen those skyscraper building. They present a contrast with the existence of these children in slum classroom. Third portrait is that of a flowery valley belt which has bellflowers blooming, and this valley of trellis is naturally very beautiful. Then the fourth portrait that is hung in the classroom is an open-handed map, an unscaled map made by the cartographer, which shows a wording means which shows the world, its true world, which shows the true picture of the world. And poet says that it is a pity that for these children, these windows that they can peep out of their classroom and not the map of the world shows them their actual world. The children have never seen rivers, seas, mountains as shown in the map. Rather, the children's world is shown out of the window. And when they try to see their world, visualize their world out of the window, they see that their future is painted with fog. There is fog. There is so much pollution where they live because of factories around, that there is smoke around. And when they try to visualize their future, they are unable to see because they are uncertain. This fog is a symbol of uncertainty. Then what they see out of the window is only a narrow street. This narrow street symbolizes few opportunities that are offered to these children for prosperity in their future, and that too is sealed, that too is not open at the end, rather it is closed with a lead sky. The sky is not blue in color, rather the sky is lead, grayish, because of the polluting smoke coming out of the chimneys of the factories. So their streets are sealed with a lead sky. The children live far from rivers. They have never seen rivers, they have never seen capes and valleys, and they do not know the strength of the stars. Stars of words means that they do not have the freedom of expression. They do not have the freedom to say whatever they want to say. Now, the third paragraph. Surely Shakespeare is wicked. The map, a bad example. The poet says that the children are taught Shakespearean literature, but the children are unable to understand what Shakespeare has shown or told in his marvelous plays. And when they are unable to understand, it seems cruel to them. And when they are taught map in a geography class, it seems like a bad example because the children are unable to correlate the map with their real world. Now, in the Shakespeare's literature, there are remarks of sea voyages, adventure, sunny life and love, with ship and sun and love tempting them to steal. So whatever they read about in Shakespearean literature, whether it might be sea voyages, it might be the sun, or the romantic world, love, that is shown in Shakespearean literature. They cannot find these kind of things in their own life, so it tempts them, it lures them, it goads them, it makes them attempt to steal, it turns them into criminal. When the children are unable to find all these things shown in Shakespearean literature, they resort to criminal deeds in order to get all these things. That's why it has been said that slums are breeding grounds for the crime. Now the poet says the that the life of the children, for lies that slyly turn in their crumpled holes. These children live in so narrow spaces, so low heighted slums that they look like crumpled holes, but they have slyly, means cleverly or cunningly, learned to live that kind of existence. But their existence is mere a progression from fog means uncertainty at the time of childhood, and to endless night means utter hopelessness in their adulthood. On their slag heap, the children live on the heap of garbage. The children wear skins. The children, as we can see, don't have proper clothes to wear, so they wear skin. We don't wear skin, we wear clothes, but these children do not have clothes, rather they wear skin, and through their skins their bones can be seen, and they seem like spectacles of steel. They seem like glass frame made of steel because their bone can be seen through, and their life is like that of mended glass. The children, they wear spectacle because they have poor eyesight, and in those spectacles there might be, there are thick glass lenses which look like bottle bits, which look like the bits of bottle on stones. The poet also says that the life of these children is crushed, is shattered, is broken, as if a bottle is thrown on stone. And all their time and space are foggy slum. The poet says that the children live in foggy slums, and all the time in their life and all the places that they can visit in their lifetime are these foggy slums only. Now the poet says that, so plot their maps with slums as big as rooms. The poet says that rather than showing in their map that there are mountains, valleys, rivers, seas, etc., their maps should be made of slums only, and these slums would be as big as doom itself, the final day of judgment itself. So the third paragraph describes the living condition of the slum children. Now fourth stanza, the poet says that these classrooms are dull and monotonous, but these classrooms come back to life, start showing the signs of life whenever there are inspections, whenever there are visitors, whenever there are political leaders visiting their classroom. Now the poet in the fourth stanza tries to give a solution to the present situation as well. The poet says, unless governor inspector, visitor. This map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. The poet says that the school comes to life whenever there is a visit by a political leader such as governor, or by a government officer such as inspector, or any other guest. At that time they are given false hope, and the map hanging in their classroom becomes the window. They are given false hope that they are shown the real world through the map. But the moment these governor, inspector, and visitors go out of the school, these windows are again shut upon them. The false promises that are made are snatched from them, and their life is again like catacombs. As the picture shows here, these are the tiny burial grounds of Egypt. Their life is like living in the catacombs again. Now, the poet makes a plea, rather, he wants the system. He says that this system of inequality and class disparity should be broken. He says, break, oh break open till they break the town. The poet says that this system of inequality should be broken, or else the students living in the slum, people living in the slum would be protestant, would grow riotous, be rebellious against the system, and they would break the town itself. They would destroy the civilization itself. And the poet suggests that these children living in the slum should be taken back to nature. He says, and show the children to green fields and make their world run azure on gold sand, and let their tongues run naked into the books, the white and green leaves. The history is theirs, whose language is the sun. Now, the poet gives a suggestion that the children living in the slums should be made to go back to their field. At least they would be able to live a healthy and hygienic life there. And there they would be able to see the azure sky. Azure means blue color sky, and at the time of sunset the sand turns to golden color. They would be able to enjoy the beauty of the nature when they are allowed to go back to their field. And the poet also says that these children should be given the freedom to educate themselves in the lap of nature itself. That they should be given the freedom of expression, and their books should be made of white and green leaves. That is, these children should be given the real education, which is through the book, and practical education, which is in the proximity of nature itself. Green leaves means nature. And when they would be given true education, when they would be imparted with true education, these students would be so powerful as the sun is. They would be able to create their own history. The poet says that history is theirs, whose language is the sun. When the children are truly educated, then the expression would be as powerful as the sun itself, and the children would be able to educate themselves in the true sense. Now, there have been some words such as gusty waves means mainstream of the society where they have all the forces and strength. Pallor means pale color of the face. Sour cream walls means dull color of the walls. Gnarled disease means a disease of bone which causes the bones to twist. And catacombs means restricted living condition as if living in the grave itself. Cramped means cramped means restricted living condition. Catacombs means underground holes made for burial of dead. Doom means death. Sly means cunning, clever. Now, the literary devices used in the poem. As I said, there has been simile used like rootless wheat because this expression has been used to describe coarse, untidy, unkempt hair of the slum children. The use of rootless wheat suggests that the children lack proper nutrition because they are rootless, they have been uprooted from ground, and they are as unwanted as the weeds are. Like bottle bits on stone means the simile graphically describes the shattered glasses of the spectacles of the slum children have to wear. If not shattered, the glasses are heavily scratched and chipped. This implies that their hopes, aspirations, and ambitions are also shattered. Like catacombs means the slum children live in dark, dingy rooms which resemble suburban cemeteries, Siberian cemeteries called catacombs. The window of these rooms look like the lid of catacombs. Slum as big as doom, slums where life is worse as death. It is like living in hell. Now metaphor, rat's eye. Metaphor is suggestive of boy's timidity and anxiety. He is reclusive and timid like a rat and searches for food and security. Father's gnarled disease. Boy's father is suffering from rheumatism or some debilitating disease that has left his body crooked, D-shaped. The quality of boy's life has been severely affected by father's handicap. Squirrel's game. A squirrel enjoys playing happily and freely in outside garden. It hops across and in the lawn and climbs up the tree, hides in their hole. The boy also wants to play like the squirrel but cannot. He must sit in the dull and dreary classroom. Now images, tree room, hiding place of a squirrel. Then future painted with fog. Just as fog blurs one's views in winter, slum children future is blurred, made uncertain by the hopelessness and lack of empathy on the part of the system. Lead sky. The sky is normally bright and blue. Lead sky suggests dark and dull sky. There is no hope for the children. Then gusty waves. The underprivileged children are compared to the privileged children are compared to gusty waves, energetic, full of energy, exuberant and forward moving. Future painted with fog, sealed with a lead sky, star of the world, far from fog to endless night, and we are skins peeped through by bones are other metaphors that are used in the poem. Then spectacles of steel has been discussed earlier as well, that emaciated, lean and thin, the skeletal body of the slum children look like a frame of wire as if it is made of steel, just like that of a pair of spectacles. It also suggests inhuman and callous and indifferent attitude of to the human being. Now images and symbols used in the poem are rootless weight, paper seeming boy, twisted bone, sour cream bowl, Shakespeare's hat, Proilis Valley, open-handed map, sips and sun, crumpled hole, bottle bits on stone, gold sand, gusty waves. Rootless weed shows that the children are unwanted like weeds. Paper seeming boy shows that this boy is as lean like a paper as a paper and as colorless as a paper. Twisted bones shows the disease of rheumatism or rickets, which is caused because of malnutrition. Sour cream walls means the faded color of walls with dirty patches, green patches on it. Shakespeare's hat, Shakespeare's hat here is a symbol of literary excellence and education. Troilus Valley is a symbol of nature's beauty. Open-handed map is a symbol of social justice, that there is no distinction between rich and poor, there is no distinction between mountain and the deep trench of the sea itself. Then sips and sun, as is remarked in Shakespearean literature, are the symbols of adventurous life. Crumpled hole means existence that is limited and restricted. Then bottle bits on stone means the cruel treatment of the society to these children living in slum. Their life is like, it's shattered like bottle bits thrown on stones. And gold sand stand for the natural beauty, and gusty waves stand for the strength of nature as well as strength that is available to the privileged children. Now, the tone of the poem is rather sober, profound, and mainly because the poet is trying to express a serious problem that affects the society at large. The description of the foggy atmosphere, narrow street sealed with a lead sky, slag heap, skin peeped through by bones, spectacles of steel with mended glass, all add to bleak and palpable atmosphere of poverty and hopelessness. The image of the slag heap, bottle bits on stone, creates rather overwhelming sense of hopelessness that can be linked to the dehumanization of society. Overall tone of sadness and gloom is paradoxical in nature, as it highlights the irony of life in the 21st century. In spite of all the technological advancement that is taking place, the gap between the rich and the poor is aptly brought in the poem. Now, questions. How do the children look like? Second, what are the things that are hung in the classroom? These things are kept in the classroom. Which things tempt them to steal? What is their living condition? Identify the phrases that show their hopeless future. What solution does the poet offer to the problem? On what positive note does the poem end? Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, and always be healthy. Keep doing your work as well.